Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. We're literally at 375,000. So let's just try to get there by hitting subscribe, watch, comment. Please keep the comments coming and share with your family and your friends because the insanity doesn't stop. Meanwhile, no one, and I mean no one, can forget that terrible Oval Office meeting that took place on February 28th, where Trump and Marco Rubio and just horrific J.D. Vance disgraced the Oval Office while literally carrying the weight for our adversary. And of course, I'm talking about Russia. Now, I bring this up because I want to play a clip for you from that moment as we look forward. We look forward a little over 3 months later, and that moment has seemed to already turned on both Trump and the White House. Play the clip.
God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Yeah, I mean, there you see President Volodymyr Zelenskyy pleading with the president that the United States cannot abandon Ukraine in this war against Russian occupation, because the United States has no other choice. We cannot allow Russia to occupy the Ukraine. And more than that, Trump says, of course, that Ukraine doesn't have the cards. Now, fast forward to today, it turns out that Zelenskyy played this right. And I wrote about this very thing on my Substack, which I'm going to get to very, very shortly. But I wanted, before we go to my Substack, I want to bring up that after the meeting, we saw the White House legitimately threaten to pull out of Ukraine, to withhold aid, and to literally threaten to walk away from Ukraine completely. However, yesterday, that position very quickly was abandoned. Thank God, right? I want you to watch this clip from yesterday's meeting in the White House where Trump is literally asked about aid to Ukraine. Play the clip.
Mr. President, are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Yeah, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
Let me be very clear about something. The big problem here, the people that are around Trump. See, he has every right as president to change his mind. We all change our mind every single day on different things. But, the people that are around him, they're feeding him just bad advice. Now, Trump, of course, says that we're going to have to continue to arm Ukraine. So again, question becomes, why this sudden change? And I believe it's because of what I wrote about in my Substack, which I called While We Scream, China Schemes. I want to read you the opening paragraph. All right. And let's dispense with the fairy tales. Global superpowers don't do neutrality, and China just let the mask slip as Ukraine fights for survival in year four of Russia's brutal invasion. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi quietly admitted what Beijing's been denying about for years, that it can't afford for Russia to lose. Let me say that again. Beijing has been denying for years that it cannot afford for Russia to lose. And why? Because a Russian collapse would allow the United States to finally turn its full attention to the one adversary that actually keeps Pentagon brass up at night. And I'm talking about China. Now, let me be clear about this. The confession, which was made behind closed doors in Brussels to the EU's top diplomat, it exposes what China really wants. A drawn-out, resource-draining war that keeps America distracted, divided, and too busy cleaning up Putin's mess to check on Xi Jinping's moves in Taiwan. And while we spiral into partisan chaos over everything from pronouns to gas stoves, China's playing three-dimensional chess with a flamethrower. When I said China can't afford for Russia to lose in Ukraine, and neither can their allies, it's a position that Representative Adam Smith summarized perfectly the other day. Play the clip.
You are the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. So before I let you go, I want to ask you about another big development this week. As we understand, the president is having a phone call this morning with Russian President Putin. And this comes right after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered a pause on sending missiles and ammunition to Ukraine. According to two defense officials, you have said that this harms U.S. national security. How so?
Yeah, well, it harms U.S. national security because Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea are working together. Right now, that manifests itself most in Ukraine. Iran is helping Russia, North Korea is helping Russia, China is helping Russia. If Russia is successful in Ukraine, it strengthens all four of those countries, all of whom are focused on weakening the United States of America. This is the battle in that fight right now. And Ukraine, incredibly, because of their bravery and their tenacity, is holding off the Russians. If we can help them, we can stop the Russians and push back on this authoritarian drift across the country. To abandon them is to empower Russia, to empower China, Iran, and North Korea. And it's really that simple. It is all connected. And the Trump administration seems to be not focusing on that. They're saying, well, we can't help Ukraine because we're worried about China. No, we have to help Ukraine because we're worried about China. They are completely missing what is going on here from a national security standpoint.
Congressman Adam Smith of Washington State, thank you very much for being with us.
You would think Congressman Smith read my Substack and then just decided to, read it there on television. Meanwhile, the 4-hour meeting between Wang and EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas covered everything from rare earths to Taiwan. But the most revealing moment came when Wang essentially told the truth that China cannot afford a Russian defeat because it would shift America's strategic focus squarely onto Beijing. Now, forget the talking points about peace and diplomacy. This was the real policy, unvarnished and cold. And importantly, it underscores a terrifying reality. China has every incentive to let the war in Ukraine grind on. And the longer that it lasts, the more distracted the United States remains and the more breathing room China gets to strengthen its military, to choke supply chains, and to rewrite the global balance of policy. And as I continue and I say, and don't be fooled by Beijing's public spin. Just days after the meeting, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning stood at the podium like nothing happened and reaffirmed the same tired script. And I'm going to quote, China is not a party to the Ukraine issue. Sure, just like a getaway driver isn't technically in the bank. Because behind the curtain of neutrality, the facts tell a different story. I mean, weeks before the first Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, they pledged a no-limits partnership, a love letter to autocracy disguised as a diplomatic statement. Now, since then, China has been quietly deepening economic and political ties with Moscow, Again, you see the point I'm making? They have increased energy imports. They have supplied dual-use tech, and they have filled enough gray market demand to make plausible deniability a full-time job. I mean, Ukraine has already sanctioned multiple Chinese companies for funneling drone parts and components into Russian missile production. And let's talk about the receipts. I mean, after another record-setting Russian assault on Kiev last week, Ukrainian officials posted photos of drone wreckage. No, seriously, I mean, that's what happens. One charred piece was stamped on it. You can't make this shit up. Made in China, dated June 20th. I mean, that's not circumstantial. That is product labeling. Meanwhile, Russia's barrage also damaged the Chinese consulate in Odessa, something Ukrainian diplomats rightly called the ultimate metaphor, right? I mean, Putin literally dragging Beijing into the rubble with him, alongside, of course, North Korean troops, Iranian missiles, and now, it seems, Chinese military suppliers. I mean, there are even reports of Chinese nationals who are fighting alongside Russian forces. Beijing, of course, denies everything. That's what they do. They deny, literally urging its citizens to refrain from participating in military actions of any party. Because nothing says innocence like issuing preemptive disclaimers for war crimes. But the larger point here is this: China is managing the war in Ukraine like a strategic hedge fund, minimizing risk, maximizing disruption, and letting others bleed while it bankrolls its sidelines. It is a slow-motion geopolitical grift, and we're the ones footing the bill. Now, meanwhile, back home, we're too busy eviscerating each other on social media and holding these performative hearings in Congress to notice that the world is shifting under our feet. I scream louder about all of this nonsense. But the parties, they're screaming louder about drag brunches than drone strikes. I mean, we've somehow convinced ourselves that the real war is cultural, not global, and that China couldn't be happier about this, because every Patriot missile that we send to Ukraine, every dollar we allocate, every political capital that we spend in Brussels, in Warsaw, and Kiev, that's one less lever that we have to counter China's aggressive ambitions into the Indo-Pacific. I mean, one less deterrent in the Taiwan Strait, one less firewall between democratic governance and authoritarian expansion. And let me be clear, China isn't just playing defense. It is making moves, securing rare earth monopolies, cornering global manufacturing, and rewriting trade rules, literally surveying the planet with floating spy balloons and TikTok algorithms, and forging deeper ties with rogue regimes. Now, while we chase our tails, Xi Jinping is laying bricks for a post-American world order. So here's the hard truth. We're not just fighting over nothing. We are fighting while everything that matters is slipping away. And while we argue over 7 transgender females in sports, or who can speak the longest at a congressional hearing, China is building an empire of silence, stealth, and steel. And if we don't snap out of this civil Cold War that we've created for ourselves, it's not inflicted by them, it is created by ourselves. If we don't stop treating each other like the enemy while the real enemies outmaneuver us, we won't need to worry about who wins the next US election, because the global scoreboard will already show fucking game over. And the worst part, we'll have no one to blame but ourselves. And as always, thanks for listening. Hey everyone, first of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.